I'm deleting. We're gonna delete it. I'm gonna delete it. I'm gonna delete it. Okay. I'm gonna delete it. Okay.
I'm actually in a movie right now. You aren't, but I am. So you need to actually watch what I do. Everything's just so crazy right now. And you need to realise that it's all for you, baby.
Underground cinema has the potential to have, underground cinema is like punk or indie music. It has that potential.
Fucking disgrace. Big mistake. Big mistake. Big mistake.
Underground cinema is DIY and it is homemade.
It doesn't make any sense. They haven't evaluated the performance of the UK Film Council. They haven't evaluated the effect that it's going to have, the knock-on effect in terms of jobs, and the knock-on effect it's going to have in terms of the culture in this country.
The loss of the UK Film Council, even that was independent to some extent, but we've really had to fill those gaps with just getting the camera and going out there and doing it basically.
Obviously it's shit, and we all think it's horrible because we're having things taken away from us. But I also think that it's good because not because of the principle of why it was taken away from us, for the reasons it was taken away from us, but it gives us something to fight for again, and it gives us something to be passionate about.
Two little boys, what the fucking hell is going on?
Right passage. If you haven't been an independent filmmaker, if you haven't started from zero, spent your own money, made something badly, fucked it up, screened it, everyone's hated it, made something else, done it a little bit better. If you haven't gone through that, then you're not a filmmaker, are you?
I think that underground, contentious though the term is, I think that we make the real films. The mainstream makes films for people that buy cornflakes.
It was you who consigned the underground to 20 years of drivel. We've had enough, so fuck off.
I think that we're living in a great time where the means to make films are so cheap that it's easy. We don't actually necessarily have to go into the industry to be able to make feature films. This is really liberating, and it means that things are changing. And sometimes change takes a certain time to happen. Things at the moment are already changing, and we're going to end up with something different to just the industry.
There's nothing left but to break copyright, occupy the colleges, disrupt the media, hijack technology. No budget necessary.
What people forget is all the movies that people celebrate now from 30 years ago. At the time, a lot of people just didn't get them or dismissed them and, didn't know how to read them or understand. They felt like they were too slow or that they were too strange, and now they've just become accepted parts of the canon, all the stuff that gets put out on DVD from the BFI or whatever, at some point the BFI were rejecting these filmmakers from funding, and now they're putting them out on DVD.
That's what it is! That's what it is! That's what it is!
I suppose the underground is something that proliferates in spaces where you don't expect to see it, which is what it was all about. And this kind of DIY, not knowing exactly what you're doing, putting things together, hacking things together, is what's exciting about it.
This boy hired the venue, because we hired the venue as well, to show. He made a film about skaters, and he wanted to, do an evening projecting it and showing it to people. So he and 400 or so skaters rocked up, and they just created absolute havoc and mayhem, and were pissing on people's doors, breaking bottles everywhere, climbing on cars. The police were called. It wasn't good at all, actually. We're not into that kind of thing, you see. It was founded by Roger Burton in 1993, who's a costume designer, but he also designed shops for Vivienne Westwood and Malcolm McLaren. First exhibition he put on was a show called Vive le Punk, which was an exhibition of early Westwood and McLaren designs. So very early on, I think Roger was interested in looking at, kind of counterculture and outside visionary art, things that were really kind of outside of what you'd see represented in London. I'd like to see culture move away from big cities, but become more kind of self-led again, in the way that it was. But it doesn't have to happen in London, it can happen anywhere, really.
Let me tell you, our Facebook group is on fire today. Everyone is making their own Pink 8 movies. So this is really Fabrizio then, right? Anyone that listened to the show last week, we talked a lot about Fabrizio. He's a filmmaker from the UK. It's his first film, like Pregnant, and like I said, I only got through maybe the first 20 minutes of it.
Well, you didn't even know nice to me now, but you haven't been nice to me all week.
Wait,
hold on. For fuck's sake. Stop being fake.
The point.
Fuck you, fucking fake.
The point is,
I would love to know what you think a smart question is then.
Well, no one's seen the film. I mean, that's how lazy you guys are.
Okay, last question, and then we'll let you go.
Have you guys not watched? You guys have not even watched the film. That's how lazy you guys are.
Underground filmmakers are exploring the poetic aspect of cinema.
Our next guest says that constant use of the internet, the Blackberries, those video games, is not only altering our lives, but it's altering our brains. Oh my gosh, what do you mean?
Great, so I messaged Fabrizio and said to him, well in for doing this, and but then I thought I'm just going to make a Pink 8 film, and I asked him is it okay if I do this, and he's like, yeah, go ahead, go for it. So I phoned him up during the process of the film and just spoke to him, and yeah, he's a very if you didn't. He did this interview once where he was wearing a fur coat and called himself the King of the Underground. Yes. And if you didn't think you'd swear he was making this character up. But after speaking to him and I interviewed him for a podcast as well. After speaking to him for a good few hours, I was like, yeah, this guy's real. Biggest pet peeve about mainstream cinema is probably how easy it's made it for people to just gloss over and dismiss the images that they're seeing. Andrew Bujalski said something really poignant once. He said that when cinema first started out, it was the sheer novelty of image that people were attracted to. So workers leaving a factory or a train pulling in at a station, it was the fact that people were seeing these images represented, these images of fairly banal things. People were aware that these were one-off instances that they were seeing, and now we're so overawed by image. We see it all the time with with social media and with 24-hour news, and you just can't get away from it, that when you turn on your TV, so often the first instinct and the first reaction you have is, oh, I've seen this already, this is just this. And it's kind of creepy how every image you see, and for some reason it's got to the point where that uniqueness and individuality and singularity has become banal.
This is what a kid on Tumblr told me. I could never ever describe my photography until this kid messaged me, and he said to me, I don't know how to describe your work, but if I could describe your work, I'd call it a professional Kodak moment. And I always like to say that I'd like my films and my photography to be like a professional Kodak moment, which to me means that I capture moments nobody else can capture, but not specifically in a professional way, but just in a way nobody else can.
Forever is only a thing Paris understands, with its day-old bread and cold café, the lights stay on till morning. I own the night,
Like the university promised me before, I'd probably be accepted. I applied again and I got declined again. And so from that moment till today, I've always not had a hatred for university, but I've done it without it, and I feel like a lot of people are going into debt and a lot of people are getting stuck in a system that they don't need to be, when they could just be focused and really get on set and learn from people who've already gone through that whole process like I have.
part of me. Everything I do is a song for you. You are in bloom, did you know that? You are in bloom. Your whole
Rocky and I did 3 days before we shot LSD, and he's a super creative. He's one of the most creative people I've ever worked with, and he called me 3 days before we shot LSD, and he's like, I'm going to Japan in 3 days to do an appearance at this party, and he's like, do you think we could shoot a video? And on the phone, because I shot a video for him before that's not been released yet, I was like, yeah, of course we can do it, because to me this was the biggest opportunity I've had yet. And then I put the phone down and I was like, how the fuck am I going to do this video? Like, I've never shot a video this big in another country and in 3 days. I'm like, I have no idea how I'm going to make this happen, but it was one of my favorite songs he's played to me off his last album he released, and I was like, I have to do this video.
Our ideas come from dreams, and I sort of suffer from these like visions sometimes, where I kind of have these sort of involuntary visions that come on me, and I kind of get quite sick, and often these end up like turning into stories or scripts and things.
I think also people have difficulty accepting things that they can't necessarily categorize, or they don't know how to read. But it's like, you know, this is the kind of films that particularly exciting me most. It's films that I get lost and I don't understand, and I want to go in and investigate, and I feel like it's a completely new experience. You know, this is the cinema that excites me.
just wanted to put on a film festival that we would want to go to.
Yeah.
So we just, found all of this stuff that we were genuinely excited by. We didn't show anything unless we could stand by it and say, I personally really like this movie.
Yeah.
So that hopefully our passion for these films that we found would translate to the people watching them.
Yeah.
The guy who was running the festival, we got to know him a little bit, and he decided he didn't want to run it anymore, and he sent us an email saying, hey, would you like to run this film festival? and we said, why not? Okay, we'll give it a go. And we worked out how to do it as we went.
Underground cinema is more like rock and roll in terms of what rock and roll was like in the sort of like late 40s, early 50s as it developed as literally an underground culture, which then broke through into the mainstream and transformed everything.
Ihre Augen reicht aus, den Schauplatz des Blutbades zu beleuchten.
I'm a filmmaker. That's what I see myself as. But within that, I would say that my filmmaking also includes performance, agitation, putting on events, history, writing. But I would class that all as, within my filmmaking. So, I guess I'm kind of a film activist. I got so many irons in the fire that the fire's almost gone out. The main driving forces behind Exploding has always been to oppose selection by festivals or funding agencies or any kind of institution. So we're against any kind of selections. We show everything. In that time, we've shown thousands of films and put on hundreds of shows. We have no licenses to do anything. We've never had any licenses. We have never sought licenses to do anything. So we remain completely outside the law. And I mean, that's the only real way to operate.
Hey boy, there's gonna be a cinema war!
It's not a culture in that way, Actually just liking something isn't making something, You really like these films? Big fucking deal. You have to make something, that's the thing. By the time, within about 3 years of operating, then we started doing very big shows. And we decided what we would do is we'd put on a festival, which would be a combination of all the different groups that were operating in London. We had a 2-week period for the festival, and every group in London put on a show within that 2 weeks. And then we did publicity for it. Anyway, we called, the festival was called Volcano. So that was the first one, 1996. The Halloween Society, Omsk, Kinky Movies, My Eyes, Kino Disobey, Shaolan, Synergy. Kino Disobey were based at the Horse Hospital, which is London's premier underground venue. Still is. Anyway, so this is the kind. So everybody put on a show within this. This was the next one. And this was an oval house, so it's got loads of stuff. And the German groups came over. You heard of Jack Sargent? He wrote the. Arthur Lager was involved. Arthur Lager, one of the key British underground filmmakers of the 90s. And Jeff Keane, who was Jeff Keane, the most important British underground filmmaker of them all. He made many short films. It's the distinction between British film and video art and underground cinema. It's just kind of lumped together. The independent sector is basically the British state as an agent in film, which is what it is. So it's organisations, kind of bureaucratic state organisations which fund and support film. That is the independent sector.
Yeah, fuck 'em.
Exactly. Fuck 'em.
Bring it down! Have a seat for a second. Shit is getting out of control.
Charlie says, always tell your mummy before you go off somewhere.
There's a rather strange Facebook group which has gone viral. It calls on people to take photos of women eating on the London Underground and then post them online. It has so infuriated some people that they've planned a protest, a picnic on the Circle Line on Monday.
Extra! Read all about it!
Well, we're joined by the man who set up the Women Who Eat on the Tubes page. He's the filmmaker Tony Burke.
You know, the world we live in changes very, very quickly on a daily basis, monthly, weekly, yearly basis. Things move on dramatically, and I think technology moves on, and therefore how we behave changes. And I think human behaviour doesn't adapt as quickly, because I am kind of invading people's privacy, but completely within my own kind of moral and legal entitlement. So then you have to start talking to sort of the governments or the technology providers and start saying, right, well, do you start kind of putting warnings on things and saying, right, here's a camera on your phone, but it's not all right to use it in certain situations, and that's when it starts to get a little bit muddy. I don't have any form of training in filmmaking or writing or anything like that. It's just how I do it. You know, I haven't done a course at the BFI or gone to university and studied film or anything like that. It's just something which has evolved and happened.
Good luck.
I don't mind rattling the bars and shaking things up and going in front of the cameras or, you know, being a hate figure. I think that's right up my street, really, to sort of try and disrupt and I'm not an anarchist, but to just upset a few people. People like to be upset. You look at all the guys that came out against women who eat on tubes and the guys I ended up on the radio with and stuff. You know, I made their day. I made their fucking day, I made their fucking month or year, because, you know, they all love to moan about stuff and the injustice of things in society and how unacceptable. And I gave them something to hate. I gave them their moment in the fucking spotlight themselves. You know, that girl wouldn't have got on Radio 4 Today programme if it wasn't for me. She should be thanking me, you know, not railing against me, because you know, without a hate figure, without someone, you know, supposedly in their eyes doing wrong, they've got nothing to complain about, and they are just a bunch of complainers. I did everyone a favour, everyone won.
So many fantastic films and filmmakers, so many people have come to the screening tonight, and it is rain dance, which means there's no VIP or press area. It's a free-for-all, and it's so great to see so many people here celebrating independent film.
I started rain dance at a really important crossroads in my life. I had done all sorts of other things, and in 1991 found myself completely destitute. I was living here in London, there was a big recession, I lost everything, and I was feeling really sorry for myself until a friend of mine said that no doctor in the world can help you as long as you're feeling sorry for myself. And I agreed he was right. And so I asked this friend what I should do, and he said, do what you love. I grew up Amish back in Canada, the horse and buggy people, and I was always told as a young kid, never ever go to the movie theater because the devil lives there. But I love movies. So I didn't know anybody, so I started Rain Dance as a thought experiment. Can you make a movie with no training? I had none. No experience? I had hardly any. And can you make a movie with no money? That's why I started Rain Dance. Filmmakers who succeed, and by the way I know filmmakers who succeed financially, like Chris Nolan and Edgar Wright. I also know filmmakers who succeed with brilliant films who have yet to achieve the commercial or critical success they deserve. But what both of these types of filmmakers share is passion. And when you meet them, they are driven. They're driven to tell their stories using whatever resources they can get together, and it's that passion that either you have it or you don't, and if you don't have it, you can only want to be a filmmaker. You can't, I believe, ever be one. If I could be the Prime Minister of British film, I would work on distribution, because a lot of British films get made, but nobody sees them. The Americans, you see, are so good at marketing and promoting their films. British people, despite the fact they're really good at marketing, say, clothes on the high street, are really terrible at marketing their films. And even when they are good, the way the cinema are structured here in the UK, and in Europe for that matter, makes it very, very difficult for a filmmaker making a film on a camera like that. No matter how good, it's almost impossible to get it into the cinema.
You know what this is?
We gonna play games?
I asked you a question.
Okay, no, I don't.
Then I'll tell you. This is your record.
Did I make a record?
You see how it goes, Johnny. Speeding, reckless driving, and then the chicken scene, and finally you run a policeman off the road. You think that's funny?
Doesn't matter whether I think it's funny or not. Hasn't got anything to do with me.
But you're through breaking the law.
I don't break the law. I make my own.
Your luck's running out, Buster.
You, Sarge? You're a big man.
We'll get you, kid. Even if we didn't, you'd get yourself. Now beat it.
Sarge? Sarge, I want to tell you something. You're a very far-out stud.
crazy. First time I've ever been, so a bit nervous.
Oh, it's fantastic because it's genuine. It's a genuine project. It's adventurous and original because it's getting people involved into not just programming, just into cinema in general, and everything is quite relaxed, and everyone has got a say. It doesn't matter if you're a programmer, if you're not. You can just get involved by screening a film, and it's about cinema. That's what it's about. So
we're going to show old school, nasty, grimy trailers and make it kind of as if you picked up a videotape off the shelf in like the early 80s and kind of trying to make it feel a little bit illicit.
Can you move stop a little bit? Yeah. Fine. I thought you were going to rattle those speakers out, but you can hardly hear it
now. We actually paid some money. We paid a $5 for each of these chairs, which came from Stockport Plaza when they were renovating. The sound installation was given by someone who just followed us on Twitter and just wanted to get involved. It just shows you don't have to have funding to do this, you just need the initiative and the volunteers. And people who are showing films already in Liverpool, so film festivals like the Liverpool Radical Film Festival, and there's groups called Elsewhere Cinema and Think Cinema who are doing events already in different venues but not specific cinema venues. We're going out 6 months now, so we started in March. Yeah, I'm deeply involved in Iskararama since the beginning, so I kind of seen it's not so much I think new initiatives. I mean there are loads of new initiatives, but I think it's more that the fact they're all linking together makes it more visible. That's really about trying to unite all the people who are doing stuff and make it more visible.
Hi gang, welcome to the strange, bizarre and extremely odd world of the extremes and the fringes of the movie festival scene. I'm standing outside the Scala Cinema, which is officially the scariest place in North London. It was the site in 1987 of the first Shock Around the Clock Film Festival, which was kind of like the Woodstock for the bizarro generation. We're here on the day of the Spring Film Extremes all-day session, devoted to martial arts, horror, monsters, death, slime, and the more strange and perverse areas of cinematic expression.
Scala's sort of pretty much a necessity. And that otherwise we'd just be watching stuff which the corporations and people have actually designated that we should watch, rather than discovering what's out there and what's really good.
Then also tied up to the legend of it was doing illegal screenings of Clockwork Orange, and that's not why it necessarily shut, but it's kind of part and parcel of this idea of a renegade cinema showing films that they weren't allowed to.
Across the countries that people are getting together to watch films because they want to, and they're trying to find their own ways of doing that, just using the tools they've got to hand. Of course now the technologies and tools are easier and cheaper, and the ways of organising are much more available and much more expansive, but I think it still comes from that punk spirit. Yeah, we're just pick up a guitar and start playing. Just get a projector and a screen and an audience. That's a cinema. Let's just fucking do it, which makes it more democratic, but it also does make it like, well, we kind of don't know what's going to happen. There's that kind of broader, the more grassroots and the more independent the event organisers are, and it's much more rich, much more chaotic, and much more genuine for that.
democracy with Jesse.
Obstructing the highway.
We aim to show politically radical but also aesthetically radical films, bringing them to new audiences both within the city and with pop-up screenings around the city, so in Toxteth, Wavertree.
You jealous? You jealous that we're taking over?
You're not taking over. Oh really? Slapper! You're Muslims will take over what?
Primarily our mainstream is dominated by American cinema anyway, Hollywood, possibly because we share the same language almost. I think other countries will have their own national language or don't speak English, obviously have maybe stronger film cultures because it's tied to their language.
Phone hacking started in the 90s and had nothing to do with hacking computers.
It is based on extremely reliable sources.
Yes, but everybody says that.
We don't really see much independent stuff. It is there, it's just not as visible. It's like the shadows in the background, but it's happening, and it always has been happening, because if you have mainstream, you have to have independent, you know.
The polling remains neck and neck, which means the United Kingdom, which we all came to learn as England, Wales, Northern Ireland, and Scotland, may not be so united after all.
We want you to stay. Head, heart, and soul, we want you to stay.
I think it's kind of all that whole pop-up movement about different pop-up shops and pop-up spaces happening, and the kind of link, the kind of occupying of spaces and that kind of movement. I think it's all kind of come up together, and it's about how do we use spaces in a way that people want rather than in the way that the institutions tell us. So rather than going to your multiplex, even this, although it's a cinema, it's an alternative cinema.
Anything goes, sod it, you know, let's just go for it and let's party, you know. It's sharing an experience with people. You know, you don't get that with a DVD. And the experience we get here at Small Cinema is unique. It's truly, you know, a wonderful place.
I think it's shit. I think it's great. You know, I think that clearly it's as much about creating opportunity for people to show their own films. Yeah, and that, you know, there is an availability of film and media technology, which means that a lot more people get to make films now than in my day. Yeah, I think that it's, you know, I still think that cinema is a great place to commune and exchange ideas.
It does involve a man eating a fetus on camera. Apart from that, it's fun for all the family. I don't see what the...
Good family film.
Yeah, it's a good family film. We'll let anyone come in, welcome all.
My name is Matthew Marsden, and until I participated in this film you're about to see, I had been living in blissful ignorance. This is my confession.
Probably best if, I haven't really, if you want to ask me some questions, it's probably best if you maybe send them across before.
There's so much that you can do with a camera. You can take a camera anywhere, you can get ideas from anywhere. So I don't understand why everything has to be the same and has to be rigid and within these rules. And well, Citizen Kane is the greatest film ever because everyone says it is, but it's actually quite boring.
Do you like going out with a filmmaker?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. What's the best thing about going out with a filmmaker?
Well, he's like the most creative person that I've ever met in my life. So, like, kind of gets me into all that kind of thing because I do drama myself, so it's making me more creative. Watched a hell of a lot more films since I've been with him, and it's all really interesting to see how it's done and all that kind of thing.
Christ, be my protector on my
Creativity is sexy.
I mean, I've got 200 YouTube views and I'm like, I don't care because I made the film, I enjoyed it, it's funny and that, but I really wish it was 2 million. I can't really lie. But I think I have some integrity in that thing, but it's easy to have integrity when no one cares. A lot of independent cinema now is still it's using the same rules as the mainstream. So I don't know. There's different pockets all over the place that are good. I mean, there's nothing wrong with mainstream cinema. It's just whether it's done well. You know, you can do something totally abstract and experimental really well or really badly, just as you can do the Avengers really well or really badly. You could make the Avengers or you could make Fantastic Four. Bernard, what a cunt. If you're not on the edge, really, you're just taking up space. They should just get out, really, unless they've got something to say.
Like when I was a teenager, when I was a kid, like cinema was like my best friend. At least there are some people looking to make films that are different. At least there are some people dedicated to their art. At least there are some people who want to make a creative and cultural difference.
Against property is relatively unimportant.
Dirk from the Merc.
Welcome to Disneyland.
Hold it there, please.
Remember, Disneyland.
Hold it. This is a secure area. Okay, proceed. Hold it there, mate.
Hold it there. Have you got any guns, grenades, or unicorns? Okay, proceed.
In Bristol there was film schools, there was university students studying film, but apart from on campus there wasn't really much of an outlet, so hence why we set up Cinema to kind of showcase filmmakers' work, give them a chance to kind of talk about their film in front of a paying audience. At the moment I sort of seem to be on this rampage of being against sort of mainstream cinema or commercialised Hollywood cinema.
Yeah.
Not because I disapprove of it in any way, but I just kind of bore with they just make the same kind of films.
Today it's remakes, reboots, rehashes. What you know, I think it's like Hollywood playing safe. They know that it's a ready-made audience. All they have to do is sort of, like say, reboot it, and then they make a buck. I mean, it's like they've remade nearly every classic horror. But there's they remade Nightmare on Elm Street, but there were no sequels to the remake. But there were sequels to the originals because the originals are good. When I'm online chatting to people, I'm like, oh, silly me gig, and I always call them gigs for some reason, and they'll think, oh, how? The next day someone said, how was the band last night? No, sorry, it was short films. I always call them gigs for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe there's a musical influence.
What's his name? Tony Wilson.
Tony Wilson, Factory Records.
And he had that club, and his kind of philosophy was
Hacienda.
Yeah, it wasn't about making money necessarily.
It was about a scene and an event and a good time, and that's it.
Your friends have managed to convince you to come along and pay a tenner to watch the latest 3-hour-long Hollywood blockbuster. Well, okay, it's entertaining, sort of, and the popcorn isn't too bad. But deep down, you know that cinema is so much more than this.
But like film's so disposable now. There's more films being made because it's cheaper to make film, it's more accessible with the technology. But now the distributors, they never give a chance for a film to kind of breathe, and then it's all based on opening weekend box office. So if a film doesn't make enough money in that opening weekend, it's out the cinema chain. It doesn't give a film the chance to get that word of mouth.
If you put too much strictness, and I think there is, like we were talking about earlier, if you put so much strictness within the arts industry in certain ways, you cease to have fun, and people become bitter about things. I never got that role, and he's an idiot, can't stand him, hate that actor. I mean, we all say this sometimes, but then you brush it off and you just keep going and have fun. You know, you don't give up and slip your wrist and that's it, end of it. I'm Liam, this is Noel.
Wave a flag and shout hooray,
hooray, hooray, hooray, hooray! It's nearly time for Jubilee Day!
Nearly time for Jubilee Day!
It's their own deal, isn't it? If they heckle, they heckle. But we're here to do a job, and you do it. That's just the way they react.
Because film technology has never been easier to access, it's bound to happen. You know, I mean, if you can get a film into a mainstream cinema that's shot on a mobile phone, that tells you an awful lot about the quality of the technology, and it tells you about the immediacy with which images can be captured. %90 of all the films released in, I think it was 2013-14, 90% of all those films were from independent and overseas filmmakers. 10% were from the home market and from the USA, and yet that 10% took 90% of the box office, and the others had to scrabble for the crumbs. I don't quite know how independent filmmakers can actually carry on without the likes of film societies prepared to get in touch with distributors, to preview screenings, to put them on, and then really to work hard to attract their audience and get them in so that these films can be seen. Quite interesting to see how many small cinemas are starting up. I'd like to think that they represent, you know, an open-minded group of people who are prepared to be more ambitious in their film choices.
Saying easy, right? Hines, I think it's coming for us. Oh my God! Jesus! Hey, fucking hell! It's wild! I'm out of here.
Yes, love cinema, want to do something, wanted to be eaten by monsters, it's very important. Yeah, you think it's important?
It's not true, it's an ancient order.
What happened?
There's people everywhere. They're everywhere outside.
Where?
They're eating people. They're eating people alive.
See? That's what I meant. Do you believe me now?
What's so great about Experience Cinema? Diversity. No, the choice and the spontaneity of it and the beauty of it.
Well, I like novelty and things that are not mainstream and looking at things from a different perspective and not getting the same old bullshit that we get on TV, Hollywood. So hoping to see some of that tonight.
What underground cinema can bring to mainstream cinema, I suppose, is it's grassroots, it's real, and it's, you know, people make it from their heart because you have to. Yeah, it's very punk. It is very punk, and actually the people that started it off really were much more aware firsthand of the punk scene. And I see a hunger in this generation coming up. They're a bit kind of bored of being spoon-fed a lot of things, and there's all this. The internet is opening up a platform for young people to find voice. It's going to rejuvenate things because they're going to actually start looking more independently, perhaps around. I have to admit to being old enough to perhaps be one of those fit in an age bracket now where you start influencing the next generation, and yeah, I'm pretty keen to do that. I'm starting on my little one. She's been she's been involved since she was, well, since the start. Yeah, since she was 0.
It's not legitimate. It's not institutional. It hasn't been validated. It comes from below. So, and that's what excites me. I don't like institutional top-down structures.
Who are we fighting here? Is this a warfare? It's up to us to do what we can to change people's tastes. And Exploding Cinema is a grassroots style movement which is trying to do just that. The mainstream cinemas increasingly counter to petty interest in superheroes and stupid effects. Nowadays, they're not looking for new ideas. Now they're looking for franchises. It's like Fast and Furious. What, 8 are we on now? I mean, and that's not a film. That's a franchise. We do already believe in the principles of DIY and a kind of punk kind of ethos. And we stick to our guns on that. It's just something that comes natural to us.
Cocaine. I said no. I'm just waiting. Okay. I thought maybe there is more cinema on a side of a street, on a corner.
A combattere il crimine e uscire dal male.
Mainly I like surrealism. I think it was a great movement and really inspiring for everyone.
I just nurture them. I give them nurturing that their parents never gave them, or the friggin' teachers never gave them. I give them the encouragement to go out there and do that, and hopefully by seeing these types of videos, you go out and make something yourself. That is possible. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing when I made, I didn't know what the hell I was doing when I made my first film. Constant error. But that's that's how you learn. There's no, you're not gonna get killed by it. You're gonna become stronger.
The more money you spend on a film, the worse the actual quality of the finished product. There's almost an inverse relationship between the two. And it does seem to me that if you have less money to operate with, you have to be a lot more creative and imaginative about what you choose to do.
Any more questions?
No? Okay, let's move it on. Thank you.
One of the most important things of this episode is that the actors were found the morning of the film, of the shooting. Basically, all the people, they just learned the lines during the shooting. They were amazing. I found them the morning of the shooting, and everyone for 5 hours in that place with me, and it was amazing.
It almost feels like being high or something because you just see the world much more differently than usual.